A driving sentence in my career has been, there's always a way. Even when it seems like there's no way, there's always a way. It might look very different than you planned. It might take way longer than you thought. But in my career, some of the hardest obstacles and the biggest barriers have ended up being my greatest assets and my biggest blessings. They've taken me places I never would have dreamed, and they've given me opportunities that I didn't even know I wanted. And so my encouragement to anyone trying to pursue anything big is that it will be hard and that it will probably look different than you picture in your head. But I'm actually guessing that if you stay the course, in the end, it'll be better. What I do is not standard. It's different. When I tell a stranger I'm a professional cyclist, they don't usually even know what that really means. And so it has to be personal. It has to be a love story. I'm so passionate about what I do, and I think that is the key to following your dreams. Because a dream without passion is just a challenge. And when there's no passion behind it, you're not gonna be able to grit it out. You're not gonna be able to push through the brick wall. But when there's a love story behind it, it feels like you can go through anything. And it doesn't matter what anybody says. It doesn't matter if you get credit for it. What matters is that you're loving what you're doing. Two weeks ago, I raced the Little Sugar mountain bike race. Then 6 days later, I raced the Big Sugar gravel race as a part of the Lifetime Grand Prix. The Little Big Sugar back-to-back is unique. The Little Sugar mountain bike race is 100 kilometers on the mountain bike, almost all single track. Then 6 days later, all of us athletes swap our mountain bike for a gravel bike, and the plan was to race 100 miles. But about 20 to 30 minutes before the start, we all received an email from the race organizers saying that severe weather, severe thunderstorms were headed into town. And so for safety purposes, they had to cut the race in half. And while that might seem easier on paper, it actually, in some ways, was much, much harder, because 50 miles as the Lifetime Grand Prix finale with everything on the line just meant it was gonna be tooth and nail out there.
Hey, welcome to beautiful downtown Hinck, Arkansas. Side of the 2025 Lifetime Big Sugar Travel presented by Catlett.
It all comes down to today. On the line, $200,000 series purse.
3, 2, 1, and you're off!
As athletes, travel is a huge part of the job. I jokingly say that I am also a travel agent, because booking, planning, logistics, there's so many moving pieces that go into moving yourself, your crew, your equipment, race to race to race.
It's a traveling circus for sure. For the whole trip, we traveled with 7 wheel sets in total to make sure that not only she has the bikes that she needs, but also the spares that she needs. On top of that, we traveled with roughly 20 tires in total, as well as anything that's needed on top of that, of extra derailleurs, extra cassettes, anything you can think of that could possibly break, we travel with extras of.
It's been a very busy end of the season. We've been anticipating this all year long. We will be attempting the fastest known time on Mauna Kea. It's the longest climb in the world and actually the tallest mountain in the world. And that's because if you take it sea to summit, that's just shy of 14,000 feet. But if you count all of the mountain that extends down into the ocean, it's actually taller than Everest. It starts at the ocean and goes to the top of the volcano. It goes through multiple different climate zones, and there is no reprieve the whole way up. One of the most challenging features of this FKT is the way that the climb sort of presents itself. So the first 42 miles has about 7,000 feet of climbing. So when I hit the 42-mile marker, I will be most of the way in miles, but I'm actually likely only hitting about halfway time-wise. We are going to do this FKT attempt supported, which is different than all of the other attempts that we've done. And I made that decision for two reasons. One, I'm entering into a space that is different for me. And so I want to honor and respect the traditions that seem to hold true in this space. And it seems like in most road attempts, they are supported. I think for me, the attempt stays pretty much the same because I will not personally, by choice, rely on the crew for my motivation. For me, motivation is internal. What I'm relying on the crew for is objective help. Like if I have a mechanical, I don't have to worry about that. I don't have to carry all my nutrition. I don't have to carry all my water. If I get cold, I can have a jacket. And so for me, it actually limits some of the things I have to have in the box. So my hope is that it allows me to hang more tightly and more intensely to the things that really matter.
This is more comfortable to me. It's more what I'm used to in the sense of like going to a feed zone or whatever it may be. They're always supported. For this effort in particular, I think of it as if I'm preparing for the feed zone or the tech zone specifically. So what all spares do I need to make sure that she's ready to be able to fix everything out there? What do I need to make sure that she's got in terms of the nutrition front? Do we want to do ice socks? Do we want to do bottles every hour? What's that cadence?
This will be one of my only times competing on a road bike, pretty much ever. So I would never let something like what I typically do hold me back from what I potentially could achieve. But this climb absolutely captured my attention. I love superlatives, the hardest climb in the world. I love checking it off. I love the way it challenges me. And what drives me to these FKTs is ultimately the challenge. I was a soccer player, as many 9-year-olds are, and I would always ask my mom to get to the field early to run laps. And eventually she said, well, would you rather just do a running race? And so she took me to a little kid's 1-mile fun run, and I saw a booth at the expo advertising triathlon. And I pointed at it at 9 years old and said, that's what I want to do. And I raced triathlon for the next 11 years of my life. I represented the US at Pan American Championships. I won the overall Xterra Amateur World Championship, swam from Alcatraz 8 times. I did all kinds of things. Because I've had sort of grandiose goals, I've always come up against some form of doubt, but it's just fueled me forward. When I showed up to college, I wanted to compete in 3 different sports. I wanted to double major. My advisor told me, you'll never finish in 4 years. I walked out and I said, watch me. It seems to me, as you go up Mauna Kea, there's 4 main climates or ecosystems you go through. At first, as you just start to leave town, it's a lot of lava rock, a lot of barrenness, and then you pretty quickly go into almost grasslands. There becomes some tall, flowing grass that's light green, almost white. And then you enter what I would call the cloud space after a while. You get so deep in the clouds. When we were in the car, I actually asked, is it raining? But really, it's just the moisture from the clouds because you're in it. And then after you get past the guard station it starts to become very barren again. You're up above tree line, the wind starts to rip, it becomes very cold, and it almost feels like you're on the moon, but you're actually on a volcano.
Yeah, right here, see? Feels like 30 mile winds now. Okay, it's all right.
But it's really calm down here.
It is.
Which is actually the part that I think matters more for the wind. I also wonder, and we'll find this out today, if I will feel that wind up there anywhere other than the summit. Because if it's coming
Because you will be
across the
shielded.
top, I'll be shielded. And so in theory, it could end up being...
In theory, it might just be the peak.
Yeah.
That would be good.
Preferred.
Yeah, that would be preferred.
I'm feeling a little nervous. I feel like, considering the fact that this is a road climb, I really have no idea what to expect. Feels like there's a lot of unknowns, so yeah, I guess just curious to see what it is, and then excited to start making some decisions based on that. I mean, that's what the discussion is, so I wanted to talk to you about that. Okay. I mean, we just have to make some decisions, but... Okay. Bye. Clayton thinks we should move it to tomorrow.
He does.
Yeah. I wasn't really thinking I would move till tomorrow, but I feel like, I don't know, he's very decisive with those things, and when I said they're grading it, he was like, and then I said, and they said the wind would be better, and he goes, oh, and we should definitely go tomorrow then. So.
If anything, what we've learned over time is wind is a hard thing to overcome. But I think through this all, it's not just been Hannah and I. Behind the scenes has been largely the same crew that has gone through everything. So I knew they've seen it all. They've seen Kokopelli, they've seen White Rim, they've seen everything that can derail a perfect day. I didn't need to think about it. I trusted everyone that was up there. If they had talked to the Rangers, they knew what the wind was like. We've talked about it before. It was a no-brainer. Lean into the people we trust to make the right decision also. It's not just me, it's our crew behind this.
It's interesting because shifting this forward, while not a comfortable thing at all, just like having to change from 100 miles to 50 miles at Big Sugar was certainly not what I wanted and was very uncomfortable. Something that I've worked on with Enzo Mental Performance this year is the ability to tolerate uncertainty. The biggest things we're watching for are, one, the wind. When we first got here, it was extremely windy, and I shifted my mindset to realize that the wind could be a huge factor in this, since you're basically going one direction all day. The second thing we learned is that they do a bi-weekly grading on the gravel road just after the ranger station. And even though this gravel road is only 4.5 miles, it takes almost an hour. So it's still a significant portion of this FKT. And when they grade it, it becomes very soft, and we don't know exactly what that looks like. But from what I experienced today, any softer and it might just be unrideable. And so we've made the decision to shift forward, to go all in and move the whole thing up one day to try and get the best conditions possible. It's really interesting when you start pursuing a new goal, because in some ways you don't know what you don't know. And so it gives you some flexibility to hope and to dream. When you see the goal, or in this case, the mountain, so far in the distance, you actually can't quite tell how far away it is. And so your pursuit in the beginning feels very hopeful. And when you start coming against those initial barriers, at first they're not so hard to push through because you're still fresh, you've still got it, you still are fixated on that point. It's not until you've been toiling and trying and working for a long time and the mountain still doesn't seem to get closer that you start to wonder if maybe you overestimated what you're capable of.
Focus, arrow, every color stroke matters. Get on top of it. You got this. Go get it. Be off. From the distance, it doesn't look that big, and it's not looking that big at the moment either. Let's go, let's go, let's go. Keep it up, keep it up. You're doing so good. Keep it up. Nice work.
It was so windy at the start, but my initial reaction was, okay, don't panic. Winds can change, the road meanders, maybe I'll catch a tailwind, maybe it'll get easier, maybe the wind will slow down. And about 20 miles in, I was actually still 6 minutes ahead of the record. So I felt pretty good because even though the wind was bad, I was still succeeding. And so in some ways, it made me feel powerful, like I could handle anything. But from mile 20 to 40, the wind just seemed to keep getting worse. And it was testing my willpower, and it was testing my strength. And I started bleeding time. It's been sort of a motto for my life that I believe anyone can do anything they set their mind to. And so I've had a lot of dreams that I've pushed really hard to make happen. And one of those came when I transitioned from triathlon to the mountain bike. I had an opportunity to make sport my career, and I transitioned from one sport where I was world champion to a sport that I was suddenly in the back of the start grid. I was getting lapped in races. Anyone could have easily looked at me and said, this is a mistake, this isn't for you, you'll never make it. And I remember so distinctly having a moment where I had to decide. I could either decide, this is too hard, I can't do it, I know what it takes and I don't have it. Or I can look at it and I can say, actually, now I do know. And so I had this opportunity where I could so clearly see where I wanted to go that all I had to do was have the patience and have the grit to work to get there.
The wind is changing directions constantly. Right now we're got a little bit of a wind tunnel headwind. So she's doing good though. I knew she was bleeding, I knew it was close. And everyone's asking me, is she up, is she up? And I'm like, yeah, she was up 6 minutes, she's up 5 minutes, she's up a little bit. I also didn't want to necessarily believe like, oh shoot, we're getting close here, like what's happening? Other than I knew that the wind was getting stronger. And so I held on to the faith that, okay, knowing what this course is, the direction the wind is, there's not a lot to interrupt it. So if this wind is continuing, whenever she turns, it might be in her favor. And every single time she would turn, I was like, well, that wasn't in her favor, so let's see if it gets better or not.
Based on the power of the previous record and my power numbers, I thought that was the place I was actually going to make the most time. But when I hit mile 40 and I was now 3 minutes behind, I felt it all unravel. I had a moment where I thought, I've traveled all the way here, I've told everyone I can do this, and now I'm questioning if I even can. I wanted to hear from everybody that they still believed. And I started spiraling a little bit, thinking, well, if I just knew that they believed, if I just knew that they knew what I was going through, then I could push through. And finally, as I turned into those last 15 miles and I faced this very physical moment of transition, I also felt my mind shift, where I remembered I don't need anyone else to validate me. I can validate myself, and I still do believe I can do this. I started privateering in 2022, and Clayton and I got married in 2021 after 7 years of dating. And it was a massive leap for us into the privateer world. I very distinctly remember sitting down with him at the kitchen table and saying, if I do this, we do this, because I can't do it without you.
There's a lot of unknowns. There's a lot of, what does this mean if this doesn't work out? What does this mean if it does work out? The thought of what could it be and how great could it be ultimately overtook everything.
I'd be lying if I didn't say there weren't times where it felt like, I don't know how we're gonna pull this off. When people see athletes standing on the top of the podium, they don't see the failed workouts, they don't see the doubt and the heartbreak, they don't see the illness, they just see the victory. But there's this whole time that athletes are pushing without the end in sight. We don't know how close the summit of the mountain is. It could be miles up the road. It could be weeks, months, years of seemingly just running into a brick wall pursuing the dream. But sometimes it's also just a moment away.
Keep it up. You're doing great, you're doing great. Be sure to eat and drink, be sure to eat and drink. You're doing good. Nice work.
As athletes, we work a lot on momentum, and sometimes all you need is that one piece of hope, that one little bit of improvement. And so when you finally get it, it's almost like all of the hard work, for better or for the worse, it feels like it disappears. You forget how hard it was to get there, because all of a sudden you're standing at the top thinking, I can't believe this happened. How did we get here? This is amazing. Until you have to work again. And then you suddenly remember how hard and how much effort it does take to make those beautiful moments happen. And I think that that's something that throughout my career I've gained in wisdom, is I've done it enough times that now when the going gets tough, I'm not blindsided, I'm not frustrated. I remember, oh yeah, we're back here, we're back grinding. Man, I can't wait to see the view again. The last 13 miles of Mauna Kea are insane. I've ridden a lot of hard stuff in my career, but those 13 miles really stand out, partially because they just keep getting harder. It's painful, not just because it's so hard, but because you're so close. And everything inside of you is screaming, and that is where you have to hold two things at once, which to me is the beauty of the sport, of understanding that I'm almost there. I have all of this work behind me to prove how far I've come. And also, the work isn't over. You have to stay patient. You have to keep grinding. You can't celebrate yet, but you can use that to motivate you to the top.
Yes. Yes. Way to go, girl. You smashed it.
It was so windy. Yesterday was emotional at the top because it was such a journey to get there. I think it's really important to emphasize the fact that just because you want something and you have a big goal and you're willing to work for it, doesn't mean it's going to come easily.
She has such a drive to push as hard as she possibly can, achieve whatever is possible, and she doesn't let it hold her back. If it doesn't go well, it might knock her down for a day, but man, 24 hours later does she come back with a relentless fight to want to make it happen and be better and actually achieve the goal.
I always want more. I always want the next dream, and I'm constantly pausing and thinking, but is that a good thing? And I actually think it's the best thing. As long as you celebrate along the way, isn't the best part the fact that the journey never ends? And actually, as I came towards the summit yesterday, and I came up on the end of this goal, the thought I had in my mind was, in my career and in my life, I hope I never summit. I hope I am always striving.
I think if there's anything I've learned about my wife is when a dream is fulfilled, there's many more dreams that I haven't heard about yet. And so we're always chasing something.
When you climb Mauna Kea, it's tradition to dip your bike in the water before you start the climb up so that it's a true sea to summit. And as I walked down on the beach yesterday, I thought about all of the times in triathlon that I walked down on the beach to start my races. And I put myself back in the shoes of that 9-year-old who had huge dreams and goals ahead of her. And as I did that yesterday, I felt just overwhelmed with gratitude, because I feel like if she knew what I was doing today, if she had known that this is where I was going to end up, it was bigger than her wildest dream.
Holy moly, she went by me on the road. She went so fast, I thought it was a rocket or something.